My name is Craig Owens, and for the last 6-7 years I've been working on research and taking fine art photography photos in allegedly haunted hotels in Southern California. Where I am right now is the Palomar Inn in Temecula, California. It's an easy place to bypass when you're traveling down Front Street because it's kind of this box-shaped building that is surrounded by big, tall, newer buildings. But I believe it was built sometime between 1928 and 1930. No one really is sure who the architect was. It was originally called the McCulloch Hotel when it was built, and the person who built it was a divorcee named Lena May McCulloch. She lost the hotel in 1930 during the Great Depression when the Bank of Lake Elsinore foreclosed on it. I believe it was $1,800 that she owed at the time, which was a considerable sum for 1930. It stayed in the possession of the bank for 9 years before it was bought and renamed the Palomar Inn. It's also a very haunted hotel, and no one really seems to understand why it's haunted or what exactly is haunting it. But I've had a number of wild adventures here since I first came here in 2011.
Hi, my name is Johanna Serrano, and I am the hair and makeup artist for this photo shoot. I've been working with Craig for about 6 years now. We've met, our first shoot was at the Alexandria Hotel.
And so have you had any unusual experiences on these shoots?
We were shooting late night up in the Valentino suite at the Alexandria, and we were taking some of the last couple shots, and the windows are open in that suite. That suite's it's not used. It's still very kind of dark and eerie, still has the old same carpet and everything. And out of nowhere, the door just to the bathroom in the second room that we were not shooting in just slammed. And it was kind of like a funny story because the guy that was holding up the light and I was holding up the reflectors started shaking, and you can see the light shaking off the barriers. So I kind of joke about that night.
So this project that Craig is working on, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Basically, we go around to different hotels in California that are known to be haunted. He works really hard in doing research and going back and really reflecting on what people see, what people hear, anything stories likes, and then we kind of go in, and sometimes we even portray some of the photo shoots as the certain stories. Like, for example, if there's a child, or if there's a lady in black, or a lady in a certain type of dress, we try to kind of replicate that as well.
So today we're doing a shoot, The Lady in Black.
That's right, that's you.
Can you tell me a little bit about The Lady in Black?
The Lady in Black is a fairly recent sighting at the hotel. As far as I know, there are 2 different people that have claimed to have seen her, both of them females. Customers that were wine tasting downstairs back when the lobby had a wine tasting bar, and they would go upstairs when no one was supposed to be on the second floor, and they would either see or hear the clomping sounds of a woman. Now, when they saw the woman, it's not clear what decade she's from. They just describe her as a woman wearing a black dress from another period, and she has like vintage shoes from another period. She doesn't really talk or interact with people when they see her. But one woman, as the story goes, one woman was downstairs wine tasting in the bar. She suddenly looks up the stairs, and she just freezes in her stool. And the person who ran the ran the wine bar at that time was a guy named Charlie Curry, who didn't believe that the Palomar Inn was haunted. And but he saw this reaction on this lady's face. He said, "Is something wrong?" And she basically said, as the story goes, that she saw a woman in a black dress walking by on the second floor. And what she saw was the black dress, close to a full length, and vintage shoes.
My name is Garcia, and I'm a tour guide, and I take guests through Old Town Temecula as part of the business I have. And really how I got involved with the hotel is I actually used to have the tour start at the hotel and go inside the hotel. I got to know the owner, Carlo. And as my relationship with Carlo grew, I wanted to thank him for letting me use the hotel, so I decided to build a page on my website to help promote this hotel. And I had an experience here. One time when I came in the hotel, I had come in to take pictures and had a digital recorder in my pocket to take notes while I took the pictures. And as a result of that, I picked up something on a digital recorder that not only got me interested in the hotel, but also in I guess you would say, the paranormal. And through that, I met Craig Owens, and got involved with him as far as the hotel, and we started to do some research together regarding the hotel. We didn't really do any investigations, but I know I'd come down here when he did another photo shoot, and I was here when he did that photo shoot, and we kind of exchanged some information, and we found out we had some similar experiences.
Others have recorded what's called an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, upstairs where we are right now, and they have recorded a woman's voice from time to time, and I have to say I'm one of those that also have recorded her voice. When I recorded, it was real interesting. The first time I stayed here in 2011, I rented the whole second floor for 2 nights in a row, and on the second night I decided to just play music on my Apple computer. So I had like music from the 19-teens, the 1920s, the 1930s, and the 1940s, and I would just play these songs randomly out in the second floor landing, which is just outside this room. And I did this for a couple of hours because it was noisy outside with pedestrian traffic and whatnot. Once the bars closed, I turned off the music, the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s music, and then we started doing EVP sessions for a couple of hours. Well, I didn't catch anything in the EVPs, not one single EVP while we were doing our sessions. But the next morning, about 5 in the morning, I was packing my gear to leave, and as I was packing my computer where I had my music stored, a female voice said, "Take music." And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. I didn't hear it at the time, but I heard it when I got home and listened to the files. On YouTube, someone posted EVP of a woman, ironically enough, in the men's restroom upstairs at the Palomar Inn. And what's interesting about this is the men's restroom used to be the women's shared restroom from 1930 to around 1999, 2000, maybe even later than that. So it's interesting that the female ghost is in the former female restroom. Is that confusing? I think it is.
So you have kind of an interesting story about the bathrooms at this hotel. Could you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah. One of the things I did is I actually bring clients in the hotel as part of the tour, and over time, I had asked Carlo. I said, "Hey, why the difference in the bathrooms? Because one bathroom's really nice, it's tiled and everything, has a shower in it, and that has to be the men's restroom, the men's bathroom. And the women's is kind of simple. It has a tub in it, Not a lot of decorations in there. And I thought that was kind of unusual for women's versus men's, and I wanted to know why there was a difference. He said, well, him and his sister Mildred had a contest, and so he had done the men's restroom, and his sister Mildred had done the women's restroom, and that's why they turned out that way. And I told him that I actually thought it was opposite. I told him that I thought the men should be the women's and vice versa. So in doing my tours, whenever I brought guests up here, I would take the women aside and say, look at these restrooms, which one do you prefer? And 100% of the women chose the men's restroom over what was the shower in it with a nice tile and everything else. And so after a while, I pulled Carlos aside and I told him what the results were, and I convinced him to actually change the signs on the restrooms, to change the men's to the women's and the women's to the men's, and it's been like that ever since. So.
You began this project because you were writing a book. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes. How the book started is kind of interesting in itself. In 2009, I was working on yet another vintage project, and I was wanting to shoot a model in a vintage location, someone that would be modeling 1920s clothing. It was for a silent film type of project. So I looked at all the hotels in Southern California looking for one that I thought was that had good bones, as they say. Someone that had great architecture that fit the period that I was looking for. So I settled upon the Mission Inn in Riverside. Well, I'd heard that the Mission Inn was haunted. And so I thought, well, hey, you know, I'm not really there for ghost hunting. I'm there to shoot pictures, but I'm going to take a couple of recorders just in case, audio recorders. So in the summer, it was August of 2009, I spent about 4 days at the Mission Inn. Sure enough, strange things happened during the shoot. So this had me kind of thinking, wow. I mean, I never encountered the paranormal in a hotel setting before. So I was kind of wondering, did it have something to do with a vintage shoot that I was doing? Why was this happening? When I'm not really one that's prone to having paranormal experiences. So then a few months later, I went to the Pier Pond in Ventura for yet another vintage shoot for the same project that I had been working on. Once again, I was hearing footsteps and I was hearing weird sounds in the off hours when I wasn't shooting. So when I started telling people about what's going on, they became fascinated and we got to talking, well, does it have to do with what I'm shooting, what I'm doing? So after having multiple discussions about it, I decided to conduct a big experiment. Let's just put the project, the website with the silent film project to the side, and then let's move forward and just focus on haunted hotels and see what happens. So in 2011, I starting this project with the intent of a book in mind. So I started looking at various haunted hotels in Southern California, and I would try to seek permission to shoot there, of course, from the hotel management. I would follow the hotel policies, but I would try to rent the haunted rooms in slow parts of the week and in the off season, preferably, so that it's really quiet and underpopulated. So we did this with 16 hotels, believe it or not, and we could have kept going because Southern California has a multitude. It has, I don't even know how many haunted hotels it has certainly probably enough to fill 4 books. But I focused on 16 hotels and bed and breakfasts that I thought were interesting and were kind of scattered around Southern California, and just to see whether or not these hotels really did have paranormal history, and to kind of find out the truth behind the hotel's history and what was the truth behind the ghost stories. So it really became a real intense So it really became an intense research project. And so that's how Haunted by History began. You know, I think if I had any magic microphone that I could like broadcast, is when it comes to haunted places, the best thing to do is question everything and then question it again. And don't believe any of the ghost stories that you hear without looking deeper, because a lot of times these stories aren't quite what they seem, or were created for the purpose of marketing or for someone else's financial gain, and not necessarily the hotel's financial gain. I'm not saying that these hotels are not haunted or that weird things did not happen, but the origins or the explanation as to why they're haunted leaves a lot to be desired in a lot of cases, especially when you do the historical research. And so for anyone that's interested in that, you know, you hear that this place is haunted and you go, oh, I always wonder, is it really haunted? Well, the answer is usually yes and no. The stories that you were told as to why it's haunted are probably not true. But that doesn't mean necessarily that what's haunting there isn't real, because in some cases there's something haunting there, we just don't know what it is. So I do think there's a link between history and the paranormal, but the history that we are told to believe, especially in like paranormal books, or you know, sometimes even ghost tours through these areas, they're not always accurate. So, you know, my book tries really hard to help the reader, help anyone interested in that, figure out for themselves, is this true? Is this not true? What do you believe?